Hello everyone, this is my pay-per-view review for WWE Survivor Series 2011. Overall, I will say it was an okay to good show. It had some up points, some down points. The first match with Dolph Ziggler and John Morrison, it was an okay match with a very predictable finish. Everybody figured Dolph Ziggler would still keep the title here. That's what they decided to go with. There wasn't much to the storyline to begin with outside of John Morrison beating Dolph Ziggler and them giving him a title match. High point for that match was afterwards with Zack Ryder coming out and continuing his feud with Dolph Ziggler and his attempts to get a U.S. title match. Next match with the Divas title match, which had Lumberjills with it, with Beth and Eve. Once again, pretty good match. Nothing horrible. A little sloppy at the beginning, but picked up more towards the end. With, of course, the finish going to Beth Phoenix and doing the Glam Slam from the top rope. Overall, decent match. Both of them are pretty decent in the ring, and I can't say that they didn't put on their best showing, but they didn't put on a horrible showing either. So what can you say outside of the fact that it was another Divas match? The next match to go over was the 5-on-5, Team Barrett versus Team Orton. It felt pretty slow towards the end, or it felt pretty slow throughout the whole match. But then again, I think that ended up happening towards the somewhat at the beginning of the match when they eliminated Sin Cara due to injury, and pretty much heard that he had torn a muscle in his leg, and it'll be out 6 to 9 months. Sorry to hear that. The guy is extremely athletic. Not sure if he did it when he was falling or during the jump itself, but you could definitely tell the point that he got himself injured and they just eliminated him. But for the whole match after that, it did feel like they were throwing stuff together because they might have had Sin Cara in there for a longer period of time than what he was actually in there. It had a very nice ending. It kept the feud going. I think it keeps the feud going with him and Barrett. Was somewhat ending the feud with him and Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes and Wade Barrett were the survivors of the team, with Wade Barrett winning the match after taking advantage of Randy doing the RKO to Cody Rhodes, and then he performed his finisher on Randy Orton. Once again here, it probably felt like sloppy match to most people due to the fact that what happened with Sin Cara at the beginning of the match. Overall, I thought it was a decent match. It was pretty well played out for what had occurred during the early stages of it. Next match to go over, the Big Show Mark Henry match for the World Heavyweight title. I'm not sure if I like the way they actually ended this match. They ended the match with a DQ with a blatant low blow. I did not like it because I had a little itch on my nose. I didn't like it because it almost seemed like this was a good spot for Mark Henry to possibly pick up a clean victory over Big Show, unless that's what they're going for at the next pay-per-view. Who knows exactly what they're going for with that. Overall, it was a little bit slower than the match that they had the month before, but it was still really good. For two big men, they can put on a decent match and play to the crowd really well. The spot with Big Show coming off the top rope with the elbow was amazing, especially for people who had never seen him do it before. He's done it back in the past in WCW, but for him to bring it out at this stage of his career was pretty interesting and pretty nice to see out of the big man there. So hopefully they'll continue the feud. I still feel like Mark Henry should be going over in this feud and will possibly get a clean victory at the next pay-per-view. That's just my own personal opinion, or how I think the storyline will end up going. Next match to go over is CM Punk versus Alberto Del Rio for the WWE Championship. This is my personal match of the night. Both these guys actually flowed pretty well. Del Rio doing his great ring psychology and working over the arm, attempting to get the cross arm breaker going, and CM Punk just doing his thing going into the match itself. It just flowed really well in my own personal opinion, and I was kind of personally surprised that they put the WWE title on CM Punk on this pay-per-view. I thought they would have had Del Rio go over to make him look a little bit stronger and then continue the feud on for another pay-per-view, maybe two. But they obviously went with CM Punk in this case. Obviously the storyline is going to continue because you have you'll have the rematch clause. So the Alberto Del Rio CM Punk storyline will continue, and of course that I kind of lost the train of thought there. But just seeing the feud continue, I personally have been liking the feud. But then again, I've been liking a lot of the stuff CM Punk's been doing in recent memory. So the feud, the two of them seem to really work well together, and hopefully the feud will continue to be good into upcoming pay-per-views. Last match I've got to go over is, of course, the main event: Rock and Cena versus Miz and R-Truth. And what can you say? It was your typical tag team match. Honestly, I think this was more of a tag team match you would see at the end of a Monday Night Raw versus the end of a pay-per-view, in my own personal opinion. You had Rock start off the match and pretty much show that he can. It wasn't really at the start, but throughout the entire thing, it basically showed that Rock can still do this in the ring. And honestly, for that, it felt like it was a throwaway match. I figured they could have tried to do something more for the storyline for going into WrestleMania. Maybe have Cena get a one-up over Rock for once versus Rock always getting the one-up over Cena. But they went the route of just Rock and Cena coexisting somewhat and winning the match, and then leading into the end where Rock does a rock bottom to Cena, and they ended the show on that. And honestly, I thought this was a good time for Cena to get one over on Rock. Maybe not do a heel turn, but just get one up over him, win the match, and then get one up over him by hitting his finisher on the Rock versus Rock hitting his finisher on Cena. So they've definitely been burying Cena mostly with this whole storyline with him and Rock. Rock seems to always have the upper hand. At some point, they've got to get Cena the upper hand and get one over on the Rock. If they do if they do this the whole way through up until the WrestleMania match, I don't know how I'll personally end up liking it. But then again, I call this one the Attitude Era's 5 Moves of Doom versus the PG Era's 5 Moves of Doom, because that's pretty much all these two have. Now, granted, they can put on a good match, but they don't have too much in the terms of a repertoire in the ring. Both of them are pretty much talk, and then they let that talk lead to the emotion that will happen into the match itself. Who knows how that match will actually pan out, but they're obviously, at this point, they've been burying Cena. Hopefully, they will make it seem like an even feud where it's not painfully obvious that maybe Rock would win, or I feel like the storyline's leaning more towards Rock versus them being almost equals, and it hasn't been filling out too well up until it hasn't been filling up until now. Hopefully, they still got 4 more months. Hopefully it will pan out and it will end up being an extremely good storyline going into the WrestleMania pay-per-view. But overall, for the whole night, pretty decent night. Nothing overly great outside of a couple pretty good spots from the superstars. Storytelling in the ring was pretty good in my mind. Matches themselves were there were no really poor matches, but there were nothing overly great matches in the night. So that's pretty much what I've got for the pay-per-view. This was my pay-per-view review for Survivor Series 2011, and thank you for watching.